as an American citizen, your compassion belongs first to your fellow citizens.
No, this is a nationalistic understanding of morality where somebody's value comes from where their citizenship lies. We should reject this. This is called Christian nationalism, which is just nationalism with a few Christian words sprinkled on top. Vance goes on to say that it is a Christian belief that we should first love our families, and then our neighbors, and then citizens of our country, and then if there is enough, other people outside of our country. This is flatly inaccurate for two reasons. First, the United States is the wealthiest country in the history of the world, and we could end global hunger, but we choose not to. We are choosing to let people starve because we want the wealthiest in the United States to become wealthier. That is a policy choice. Second, Jesus doesn't think the family structure is important. So of all of these times that you hear about Jesus being for family values, that just ignores Jesus in the Bible. Let's look at Luke chapter 14. This is verse 26. Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Let's just go to verse 33 at the end for a fun bonus. So therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all of your possessions. If you think that's a one-off, let's go to Matthew chapter 12, verses 46 through 50. While Jesus was still speaking to the crowds, his mother and his brothers were standing outside. His literal mother and brothers were standing outside, wanting to speak to Jesus. Someone told him, look, your mother and your brothers are standing outside, wanting to speak with you. But to the one who had told him this, Jesus replied, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And pointing to his disciples, he said, here are my mother and my brothers. For whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. Once again, Jesus does not care about the idea of the nuclear family. He certainly doesn't care about the idea of citizenship in a nation. He cares that the marginalized are liberated in body and spirit, wherever they may be. That is the heart of the gospel. Do not trust Christians who preach an ethic that primarily benefits them. If it doesn't contain liberation, it doesn't contain Christ.
Hello, how are you? And welcome to Andrew's Clubhouse. Today is a lovely day. It is 1:41 p.m., Sunday the 2nd of March 2025. And it's quite overcast. The clouds are sort of beautiful. They provide this lovely sort of background texture, right? I'm feeling quite good. I just came back from my son Oscar's 4th birthday party. I forgot the name of the park, but it was, I don't know, it was a local park not too far from here, about 15 minutes away, and it was amazing and beautiful. It was full of my wife's family. My mum and sister went. No one else from my family came, and I think that's for the best. The last birthday, or 2 birthdays ago, that I had for Oscar, my second child, was full of copious amounts of alcohol, and it basically turned into pre-gaming for a lot of my cousins, for them to go and, snort cocaine afterwards. And for the people that I'm talking about specifically is Majid, the person that stole my car and stole $96,000 from me last year, and Yusuf, the person that convinced Saeed and his wife that I wanted to kill their baby, and which caused the police to come to my house like 3 to 5 out of the 15 times they came to my house last year. When I was having a mental breakdown, my family exacerbated the breakdown and made everything far worse than it needed to be. And I realize it's because they're toxic people that have been greatly impacted by the drug culture in Sydney, particularly cocaine. My cousin Majid has a proper addiction to cocaine, as well as my second cousin Youssef. Youssef being the godson of my third eldest child, and Majid being the godson of my second eldest child. Saeed being the godson of my first child and the best man at my wedding, got done for the supply of drugs about, I want to say 8 years ago, at a rave/concert, right? EDM festival, Kazi. About 8 years ago, that I was going to with him. We were standing in line to go in. There were sniffer dogs. Sniffer dogs sniffed him out, found that he had gear on him. Police took him to the side. Anyway, ended up confiscating the drugs and giving him a court attendance notice. And he asked for my Uncle Charlie's help in getting him a lawyer and helping him get off the charges. My Uncle Charlie did little but basically start like talking crap about Saeed to his mother, you know. Look how bad your son is, he's a junkie, he's selling drugs, he's just like Majid and all that sort of stuff, right? Which is funny because Ami Sharbel has been known to take drugs. He's been known to snort cocaine with his nephew Majid when he was living with him around the Little Bay area several years ago. But more than that, my Uncle Charlie's a career criminal, right, who bashes his brother. It's been rumored that he bashed his wife. He was arrested for physically assaulting his niece, Jessica. And he also has been known to deal drugs, I believe in high school, right, which is ages ago, I understand, but he graduated from selling drugs to stealing money from his family. $200,000 in 2013, then $180,000 in 2014, then about $350,000 in, I believe, 2018 when they built a duplex, right? And I just found out recently that my Uncle Charlie had a physical altercation at St. Charbel's Parish Punch Bowl. Good work, everyone, you know? And part of the reason why my uncle was able to, you know, succeed so much as a criminal is because he had the backing of the Maronite Church, particularly the priests and the parishioners, well, not the parishioners, well, yeah, no, and the parishioners at St. Charbel's Parish Punch Bowl, you know? Seems like it's a breeding ground for criminals in a way, or violent, you know, drug-addicted maniacs. But that's just my opinion, you know? And it's not about that, right? It's about having a lovely G-rated birthday for my beautiful 4-year-old son, which was super, super lovely and amazing. And I wanted to do this episode in the morning at sunrise before I went, but I had to go super early at like, you know, 7:30 a.m. To help bags the table and set up. So I'm doing this episode in the afternoon. I wanted to start by giving you, my audience, some good news. So I had a manic episode last year, right? I absolutely spiraled and was lashing out at my wife. Me and my wife had to separate because I wasn't safe to be around. Certainly not the kids, right? I mean, they obviously needed stability, my wife needed stability, and I was, you know, my behavior was so bizarre. She didn't feel safe and I didn't feel safe with her and the kids around me. So she went and moved in with her in-laws, right? And I'm here still in the house that we own together, and I'm renting out each room individually shortly, which will be good. And my father has paid for the next 2 months' mortgage. Thank you, Dad. Isn't that nice to do nice things for people? Ugh. And part of my spiral was, me sort of, lashing out on text messages, particularly to Nana, which caused my Uncle Charlie, the career criminal, who was angry at me for telling people that he was a wife basher. It gave him impetus or evidence to give to a police officer, to convince that police officer to take out an AVO on me, right? The message that was sent to Nana was in reference to my father, right? Where I said that, I want to lash out violently at him, right? Knowing that he was in Qatar and I was in Sydney, right? I was venting, right, to Nana. My uncle got hold of a screenshot of that conversation, gave it to a police officer, and said to that police officer, my nephew is acting erratically. He wants to harm me, and now he's texting people saying that he wants to slit my throat, which was all hogwash, right? He was just upset that I was, calling him out for being a wife basher and a niece basher and being a thief, right? He was really upset, but because he's a career criminal, he knows how to work the system, and he worked the system, convincing a 23-year-old police officer to take out an AVO because, I suppose that's just what you do. So he said that, and another lie that he told that same police officer is that we haven't seen or interacted with each other in 15 years, which is absolute hogwash. My wedding, for example, right, which was 5 years ago, he went to my wedding. I stayed over his house after the wedding, in which he performed cunnilingus on a woman in the living room where I was passed out trying to sleep, right? But I couldn't because I kept hearing that disgusting sound by my uncle. There was the Lelia that night. There was the pre-wedding party the night before my wedding, and then there was my wedding, right? We interacted there, for goodness sakes. And then there was the tote picnic, for example, where he lashed out at my sister, right, in front of me and several other people, and my father passed out, right? Perhaps due to the stress. I don't know. I've seen the youngest brother lash out at his daughter and he couldn't do anything. I don't know. That was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, And then last year, he sent me a taunting text message, right? Because he saw that I was having a nervous breakdown and he made fun of me for that. Prior to that, we were, in 2023, we were talking several times over the phone about how I thought that he needed to be removed as director of Happy Lion because he's a thief and he's been misusing the funds. And, to put it mildly, he was failing in his fiduciary duties to the family, right? He knowingly went to an officer and absolutely lied to that young officer to convince that officer to put out an application for an AVO. And then he convinced Rita and to have a conversation with me because at the time at around September last year, he wanted me to provide him evidence that I committed fraud to the lender that we took out a loan for. Once I found that out, I, told the lenders that I'd never committed fraud, and the person that committed fraud was Ami Maroon. He committed fraud and he misled iCare, the insurance company, that because he told them that company, Happy Lion, the family trust company, was not an operational company, right? So I sent that screenshot, that rejection of iCare to the lenders to show them that I have not committed fraud, but the people that actually have committed fraud is Maroon, the director of Happy Lion, who has told an insurance company that it's not an operational company. you know, and the lenders were happy, were interested to hear that, right? Because that's a breach of contract. And what that meant is that the interest rate after a breach goes from like 9% to 22 or 25 or even 30%, you know? So it automatically went to the higher amount, and so the amount that they had to repay went up several hundred thousand, I'd imagine. Yeah, so me and my, you know, we interacted a lot, and the interaction that I had with Rita, that was organized by my Uncle Charlie, led to me being arrested by the police, because my Uncle Charlie went to the police in early December to tell them that I tried to contact him through a third party, Rita, and on 2 occasions. So the police had to fulfill their duties. That's technically a breach of the AVO, right? So I was physically arrested for that, which I found really interesting. But again, it's the pattern of a career criminal. That was a day or two after he found out that I went to the police to tell them about my brother telling me that Ami Sharbel, my uncle, the person that had the AVO out on me, was offered him $10,000 to break my arms and legs and my laptop. So in retaliation to that, my uncle went to the police and, you know, spun them a web, right? Just like he did with that officer, that 23-year-old officer that took out the application for the AVO. Yeah, and the cops did their job, and yeah, I got done for breaching the AVO by having a conversation that Ami Sharbel organized. But I understand that it was my responsibility to not speak to him, because I think in the conditions of the AVO it says that you're not to speak to him even through a third party, even if the pin-op, the person in need of protection, which is Charlie, wants you to, right? So, you know, I was going through a lot mentally at the time, and I didn't realize that, right? So anyway, I got done for that. But that's what happens when you go up against a career criminal, a wife basher, and a swine, I suppose. But what I wanted to talk to you about is some good news. Because around this time I was smoking, I was smoking cannabis daily, and I'm still smoking cannabis daily. And I was driving and smoking cannabis daily, even though my license was suspended, then disqualified, and the registration for my car was cancelled, and I was still driving, and I got pulled over 4 times, and 4 times I got done for driving with a suspended license or a disqualified license with cancelled registration. And so on Thursday was when I had to go to court for the 4th driving offence, and at that point, there was a chance that I would have got a custodial sentence, right? And I was really, really, really concerned, and I couldn't afford a lawyer, so you know it was scary, right? But I wrote a really good apology letter. And I'm gonna read you the apology letter. Then I'm gonna tell you, you know, what the judge's reaction to that. So I went to court on Thursday, and I'd given this to the judge several weeks prior, and this is what it says: Dear Magistrate, I am writing to explain the circumstances surrounding the traffic offence with which I am charged. I wish to provide context to demonstrate that at the time of the offence, I was experiencing a severe mental health crisis, right? And I have backing documents to show this. I have all the hospital paperwork, a psychiatric report that explains that what I was going through was a crisis. The most recent one in December says that, you know, I was going through crisis. For several years, I have faced significant challenges related to mental health and substance abuse. Right, the substances being Valium, alcohol, and cannabis. I've been under the care of my psychiatrist, Dr. Gibson, who diagnosed me with ADHD. Following a severe mental breakdown at the start of 2024, Dr. Gibson suspected I might also have bipolar disorder. The breakdown that I'm referring to is when I lashed out at my dad and tried to kill him. That was the beginning of the breakdown, the spiral, right? That's why my dad left, the country, because he didn't want to deal with, his son spiraling. It's too much work for him. We discussed symptoms I have been experiencing since late 2023, which aligned with mania and hypomania. Due to the severity of my symptoms around February 2024, I was unable to work, resulting in substantial financial hardship. With no income or saving, I was forced to rely on Centrelink support, right? That's what happened. Unfortunately, because by the way, all of my money was gone. I put all of my money in all of the property investments that I was doing with my family business, including the CDC for 15 Otto Street, that everyone it just all went to crap because I had a mental breakdown. I was in charge of all of that sort of stuff. No one knew what I was doing or how I was doing what I was doing. So when I had a mental breakdown, everything sort of crumbled and fell apart. It's called unraveled, right? When there's no leader of a ship, when there's no captain of a ship, it'll veer, and crash onto land, which is kind of what happened. All the investments, all the properties that I purchased, my cousins just walked away from. Unfortunately, I could no longer afford to continue seeing Dr. Gibson and began consulting my local GP, Dr. Khan. He's my best friend, Dr. Khan. For ongoing monitoring of my conditions. I have been prescribed medicinal cannabis from the dispensary, Pollen, for the past 2 years. Pollen, fantastic, highly recommended cannabis dispensary. If you struggle with mental health issues, chronic pain, it might be worthwhile for you to just have a chat with them. I think a consultation is like $79, $89, maybe $99. And they'll give you a whole bunch of prescriptions, a whole bunch of options, not just cannabis like THC. You can get, high strength CBD oils and wafers and all that sort of stuff, right? Fantastic dispensary, highly recommended. My cannabis prescribing doctor was Jay Wren. My local GP, Dr. Khan, and psychiatrist Dr. Gibson are all aware of my mental health struggles and medicinal cannabis use, which has been an essential part of managing symptoms such as panic attacks, depression, mood swings, insomnia, and pain. During this period, my wife and I separated. She moved in with her parents along with our 4 beautiful children and had to rely on Centrelink for support. So Emily, my wife, had to go on Centrelink. Adding to my challenges, my workers' compensation claim was rejected on 31st of May 2024, exacerbating my mental health struggles. Yeah, thanks a lot for that, Ami Maroon. All you had to do was literally just say that, yes, Andrew was working, but you just couldn't do that because I suppose it was important for you to make the case that I had nothing to do with anything and who the hell's Andrew, he's just a little ant. So whatever the hell that was a lie, and that caused the repayment amount to be increased because that's you committing fraud, for goodness sakes. On the 16th of June 2024, I was hospitalized under Section 22 at Concord Hospital following the death of a close friend and cousin earlier that day, Tony Toke. The loss profoundly impacted me, worsening my symptoms. Later in October, I learned of another close friend's passing, which further affected my mental state. I'm still in the process of grieving and recovery. I wrote this in November last year, and this is still true today. Although I'm like much further ahead, and I'm doing a lot better, I am still affected by the loss of those 2 friends. On the 5th of December 2024, I was hospitalized for the second time under Section 22 due to suicidal ideation and panic attacks. At the time of the offence, I was fully aware that driving with THC in my system was unlawful. I also knew that my driver's license was disqualified and my vehicle registration cancelled. Despite this, I drove. Even though the trip was neither urgent nor necessary, I could have taken public transport or cycled to my destination, but in the moment, I lacked the impulse control to make a rational decision. I regretfully admit that I chose to disregard the law. And impulse control of my emotion was a huge issue for me earlier last year. That's especially in like March. That's when I lashed out so aggressively and so acutely at Nana via WhatsApp message. I was talking about Candace. I was talking about Sandy, sweet, gorgeous memories. this lack of self-control is concerning to me because it is entirely uncharacteristic of the person I strive to be. This behavior was an aberration driven by the ongoing mental health crisis I have been working hard to overcome, right? Yeah. And what else do you think that it is when someone like separates from his wife, is dead broke, right, and begins lashing out? Like, it's not someone having a good time, it's someone in crisis, for goodness sakes. And people's reaction to me being in crisis was just to ignore me wholeheartedly, which was lovely. You know, it made me feel so much better. Since February 2024, I have been in a state of persistent crisis, but have been actively seeking to improve my mental health. It has been an incredibly challenging time, and I have faced numerous setbacks. You know, the death of Tony, the death of Gabby, the rejection of my what do you call it? Workers' compensation. My dad refusing to talk to me or help me in any significant way. Ami Maroon refusing to talk to me. Majid stealing $96,000 from me and my ute. Right, for goodness sakes, that there's still a $50,000 debt for. My God, I heard that in an effort to, like, because tow trucks were coming to their house to repossess the ute. Like, he doesn't own it, right? Majid does not own that ute. My God, the finance company wants it back. I don't know how someone is so comfortable just driving in stolen property, but then it makes sense. If you're a career criminal and if you've been raised by career criminals, everything that he's doing is quite natural and like good in his mind. I think he was happy with it, right? Playing that game that he was playing, and apparently at some point the ute was like parked at Mudgee. Like, he really didn't want it being he really didn't want a ute that he was driving for free that he never had to pay a cent for to be taken away from him because he's a thief. Majid. Yeah, it's really, really, really disgusting. I'm deeply ashamed of my actions, and I feel immense guilt and remorse. I'm embarrassed that the police had to remove my vehicle's number plates to prevent me from driving, but I'm grateful that they did. Yeah, man, because if they didn't, I would have just continued to drive, man. Like, I just didn't have any impulse control. It was crazy. Like, I don't get it. It was odd. I don't know, man. I recognized that at the time I could not trust myself to act responsibly. True. I'm thankful to the police for intervening and preventing further harm. I deeply regret my actions and respectfully ask the court to consider the mitigating circumstances of my case, including my mental health conditions and the impact of the recent crisis on my behavior. I am committed to continuing my mental health treatment to ensure that such incidents do not occur again. And that's like seeing my psychiatrist regularly, seeing my psychologist regularly, and my GP, you know, until the symptoms have passed and, you know, until I'm normal again. To support my recovery, I have taken up cycling as my primary mode of transport. I've also engaged a financial counsellor to help me address my financial difficulties. I plan to discuss financial support options to see my psychiatrist, Dr. Gibson, in the future. I've begun seeing a psychologist, Ronnie K. Ruse from Psycho DOS, to get extra support. My next appointment with him is on the 24th of January, 2025. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I saw him then, and it was good. It was quite good. It was fine. It was all right. While I'm still in the process of mental recovery, I now feel capable of returning to work and contributing positively to society once more. And then you heard on this channel, right? I've been working at rendering, like helping my uncle, my auntie's husband, doing rendering, and I've started to quote for jobs, and it looks like I'll be receiving some jobs in the near future. So yeah, man, it looks like I'm gonna get past it. And so in court, right, I was just sort of, you know, on the edge of my seat, just waiting to hear what the judge has to say, because, you know, they're reading through all this sort of stuff, and then he's thinking, and then he was really critical of me, right? And at that point, right, the recommended sentencing was 12-month disqualification, right? But he also, like, if he felt, you know, he could also, it also carried a custodial sentence, the potential for a custodial sentence, right? And the minimum disqualification period was for 6 months, right? And unbeknownst to me, right, because, I've been in crisis, right, my license is disqualified up until May. And there was a little bit of back and forth between me and the magistrate, right, because he said what he said, and I just sort of said that I totally agree with him. I'm what I did was wrong, what I did was bad, and I'm disgusted with myself, and I'm appalled at my behavior. And I just waited to hear what his response was, and I got the shortest possible disqualification period. So I cannot drive for 6 months from the day of from that court date, which was I think the 27th of February. So I could drive again on the 27th of August, which is literally the best case scenario. So I am so relieved, so happy, so grateful to that magistrate for looking at me so compassionately, let's just say, right? He was quite stern, but he understood, right? And I'm indebted to him, and I'm so grateful for him for that, right? So thank you so much, magistrate at my local court. You are an angel. You are an absolute gem. So yeah, that's what that is. And I thought to myself, like, given the amount of effing and jeffing, the amount of like times that I was driving, those were the times that they caught me. But like I would have been driving daily, like literally smoking my vape in the car, like hotboxing in my car, like pretty much daily, right? To get to the swimming pool, right? So I can swim, so I can alleviate myself from these really, really, really intense, heightened sort of manic symptoms, right? Because the only place at the time that I could sort of relax was when I was in the water, right? So my mind would just race, anxiety, dive in the water, and I'm just in the water. And it's just peaceful and lovely, and I'd swim, I'd do multiple laps, get out of the water, and I just feel so refreshed. It's completely unlawful, completely reckless, completely, mad, crazy, right? And I, inevitably, butted heads with police because of that. Not butted heads, but like kept being pulled up by police, right? And I kept driving because my symptoms were so strong that like I just couldn't stop, because I got some euphoria from driving. I don't know what it was, man. And then from going to the particular places, like driving to Bondi, and swimming there and all that sort of stuff, right? I absolutely loved it. Being able to drive to Bondi at the time was like this really sort of therapeutic, almost pilgrimage that I had, right? So it was a place that like I'd driven to often, right? As an attempt to get a respite from the extreme manic symptoms, right? While I was in crisis. It was a really, really intense period. I'm really ashamed of a lot of the things that I did at the time, and I'm so glad that I feel like I'm past it now. And I feel so much better. Like I feel ready to take on the world, right? And I'm eager and I'm motivated to do that. And I love the idea, right? Because I have to be positive, right? I have to be an optimist, right? And for me, the idea is, okay, this sucks and I can't drive for 6 months, but after 6 months, right? After that period of abstinence, right, from driving, man, it's going to feel so amazing to be able to drive, and look forward to amazing episodes revolving around driving to these amazing places around New South Wales, rural New South Wales, pools, beaches, in the outback, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to talk to Emily, my wife, about maybe taking like 2 weeks off or something around September or October, and basically devoting that time to like a massive road trip around particular areas, and make episodes in each kind of area, right? I love the idea of me sitting down here, and making an episode in like this beautiful, open, lovely, awe-inspiring, sublime area, because Australia is full of things like that, right? And driving and road tripping is something that I absolutely love and I adore. And there was a little bit of that. You know, I did an episode, I think the Locked Out special ages ago, when I was in the middle of my crazy period, right? I drove to, I don't remember where it was exactly, but it was just outside of Newcastle. And I sat in the back of my Tesla and, you know, I waxed poetical about the Toke picnic. And I love that, right? I love the idea of going to a beautiful place. And then doing an episode, and perhaps, you know, at that time I'd have an even bigger following that I have now. Right now I'm at 3,700. Perhaps in October I could have close to 10,000, right? And by then, you know, I can organize, you know, to go to particular places and speak to particular people and have really fruitful, powerful conversations, important conversations to particular people along the way. You know what I mean? I want to go to Canberra, perhaps interview a politician. That'd be a dream. I want to go back to Jindabyne. Yeah. I have a soft spot for Jindabyne, you know, because that's where I did my triathlon, and that's where I hung out with Gabby, and not too long before he passed away. There's also Cookamadjira, right, in Parkes, New South Wales. I really want to go back there and film an episode around there. Maybe Orange and Bathurst, you know. Our family has a strong connection to Orange and Bathurst. There's a lot of people in our family that have places there. Maybe even Picton, you know. That's where Carol lives. I love that idea, you know. I love the idea of having things to look forward to after such a dark year where I lost hope for a period. And I'm the kind of guy that just doesn't lose hope. But I lost hope for a period, and yeah, my spiral got really, really acute after Tony passed away. It's really unfortunate what happened. And that's why I have a lot of resentment towards his brothers, Yusuf and Halim. Yusuf for just perpetuating rumors about me, right? Not understanding what was happening, not having any decorum or compassion or anything, and basically behaving in such a way that made my crisis even worse, right? While he was just oblivious to everything around him, including the death of his brother, right? I kept asking, what's wrong with Tony? I don't know. He was blaming the nurses at the hospital and the doctors, and us. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You know, I still have a lot of anger. It's nowhere near as bad as it was before. Well, let's just say my anger was at an 11 last year. Right now, I get these pangs of just like, fuck, you know. Anyway, I was at Bondi Beach working with Walid, my auntie's husband, and it was beautiful. I didn't realize where we were working exactly, but it was literally like just across from Bondi Icebergs, right? And I love Bondi Iceberg swimming pool. It is so beautiful, so amazing, and it is highly, 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 highly recommended for anyone that enjoys swimming, enjoys the experience of like swimming in salt water, beautiful kind of surroundings. It's just absolutely amazing and brilliant. And there's this really cool perk, right, where they've got this sauna, right, and you have not lived, sweet angels, you have not lived until you swim a few laps at Bondi Icebergs, go into the sauna, warm up, right, from that ice cold, kind of like really, really cold, invigorating Bondi kind of sea water, right? You go to the sauna, all right, you heat back up, and then you dive back into the cold water again. It is the most refreshing, exhilarating experience that you'll have. It is beautiful, it is amazing, and it really invigorates you, right? It really, really, really does. It's super, super highly recommended. Great for the skin. You know, you go in the sauna, it opens up your sort of pores, and then you dive right into the salt water, and the salt water has this sort of like cleansing quality to it, and it is sort of beautiful. Bear in mind, it's all deep end, but there's like a smaller, sort of shallow, I think 20-meter pool or something. Might not even be that big. It's not a traditional size. So it's not even 25 meters. It'd be smaller than 25 meters. And the normal sort of deep end pool is, I think 50 meters, and it is beautiful, beautiful, amazing. So when I was there in the morning at like 7 a.m. or just before 7 a.m., you smell the salt water. You know, you just take in the environment and the surroundings around you. One day it is absolutely magnificent, and I felt good. And for the last little while, for the last several weeks, right, I felt like, oh, okay, I'm ready to heal and I'm ready to talk to the people that, you know, I offended, right? So I've been calling Yusuf like daily, and he hasn't answered. And I've started calling Mansour daily, and they haven't answered. And then I realized, oh, they probably don't want to talk to me because they're angry at me. Mansour, because I talked about his drug addiction and drug use, and how I was disappointed in the kind of wedding that he had, right? And how I just think that I've always seen him as a pathetic kind of figure, someone that's insecure, someone that's broken themselves, that struggles with anxiety, right? That struggles with self-esteem and all that sort of stuff, and sort of hides from people and doesn't like dealing with people, is very insecure and all that sort of stuff. And he uses cocaine to help cope with that, right? But people in our community, because they don't really see or identify issues with mental health, they have a blind spot to it, so they don't see that. They just see that he has like a moderately successful company that's been propped up by his father and mother, right? Who he sort of scabs off, right? Because he's kind of a spoiled kid and a junkie. So I'd imagine that he's angry at me for that, right? But I'm angry at him because, you know, I think he's a poor, pathetic figure in the Lebanese Maronite community in Sydney, but he's exonerated and respected, kind of like my Uncle Charlie, who's an abuser, right? I just don't understand it, right? The cognitive dissonance, how they don't see what I see so clearly, right? That, he struggles. Like he had a panic attack in Europe because he did way too many drugs, and he got overwhelmed and he crumbled and fell apart, right? So he had a return ticket, but he cancelled that return ticket, so just threw away that money and got a one-way business class flight back to Sydney from wherever place he was in Europe, using his parents' credit card, business class, because he's a spoiled child and a junkie that can't handle, you know, his drug trip, right? I just find it so interesting because Yusuf is made fun of for you know, snorting cocaine and doing copious amounts of drugs, but like he doesn't have rich parents, right? Like Mansour does, right? And I got really, really, really upset because part of the reason why people wouldn't help me last year is because they just thought that I was a spoiled child who was just whinging, right? I just find that so interesting because spoiled from what? Like, we didn't grow up with money. Like, it was like my dad made a lot of money, but he gave it away. Like, he threw it away to other people, right? Yeah, but we never got any of that money, right? When my parents sort of separated, my mum had to raise us on her own, on a pension. So 3 kids on her own, on a pension, no money. Like, people would come to our house and give us like canned goods, right, for us to eat. We had no money, right? And my father refused to give my mum money because I suppose his feelings were hurt that my mum wanted to break up with him. He just couldn't understand why. Oh God. Yeah, man. And my mum ended up going out with this really wealthy guy called Nassif. And I suppose they thought I was spoiled because my mum was going out with a rich bloke. Yeah, this rich bloke hasn't spoken to me in like 3 years because he despises me because I'm crazy. Like, I'm Isharbel, you know? Yeah, man, he didn't spoil me at all. Like, at all. He really, really didn't like me at all. Like, my mum had to beg him for me to work with him, you know what I mean? And then I just ended up, using his status and his clients and all that sort of stuff to build my company and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, but I certainly didn't. I certainly wasn't spoiled by him. My mum brought up this occasion where we went to Thailand maybe 14 years ago at this point, and I got a massage at the hotel and I got a bunch of food to the room, and it cost like a few $100s, maybe $1,000. I don't know. It was a lot. It was anywhere between like $500 and $800. And she brought that up as like a reason, like, yeah. See, Andrew, remember what you did? Remember when we went to Thailand and how expensive the room service was? I was like, yeah, you talk about 14 years ago? Okay. How many times has he taken you business class overseas? How many times has he taken Francis business class overseas? What are you talking about? Like, dude, I didn't know. Like, I never had a father that gave me anything. And then all of a sudden, I'm in a hotel and Nassif just keeps boasting about how much money he has. So I'm like, awesome, I'll just get a massage. And I just got the highest price massage. Like, yeah, sorry that I did that 14 years ago. I won't do that again. Jesus. I literally think it was that. It was that one occasion, right? But if that one occasion is reason enough for the entire Lebanese Maronite community to think that I'm spoiled, right? What do they think of Mansour, right? And having a panic attack in Europe and using his parents' credit card to get a business class trip back to Australia? Surely, right? What about his brother who was gifted semi-trailer after semi-trailer to start his business from his father? What a spoiled kid. My God. And he ended up eloping. How spoiled is he? It's ridiculous, isn't it, right? Yeah. Double standards, man. So it must be for that reason that Mansour doesn't want to speak to me. Oh, and I talked about how his uncle, still sells cocaine from his parents' house that he lives in. Like, there's just, like, when I thought back to, like, how much I was judged by everyone in the community, I was like, but dude, that's like glass houses, bro. Like, what are you doing? Like, yeah, they literally charged me with being spoiled, right? When, yeah, you have people like that do copious amounts of cocaine. That's probably gifted to him from his uncle, right? And then gets trips paid for, partly paid for by his wealthy parents. I don't get it, man. Mansour's the one that's actually spoiled, right? I'm not spoiled. Yusuf definitely isn't spoiled, right? He needs the charity of others because he's a broken bum. But yeah, I shouldn't talk badly about them. Sorry, I'm not talking bad. It doesn't feel like I'm talking badly. It just feels like I'm being honest to myself. I'm being authentic, you know what I mean? Because what happened last year really, really, really shook me, and no one would help at all. They just like stayed away from me, which was ridiculous. Because I'm like, do you really think so little of me? And apparently they do. It's like, okay, really? All right, well, maybe it's reciprocal. Maybe they feel a particular way about me because I sort of feel a particular way about them, and that's always seemed evident to them. Maybe Mansour sees that I've never really respected him. I certainly don't respect his partner Halim. Yeah, man. Like, a lot of things really sort of burst, and a lot of truth sort of came to the surface when Tony passed away. So Mansour wouldn't answer my phone calls. So I tried calling his friends, and I had a really interesting interaction with his friend, who asked me not to, name his name, but yeah, I'm not going to say what his name is. I'm just going to say that he gave me a slice of his knowledge, right? I called him and he answered, and I was shocked because he's a close personal friend of Mansour and Youssef and Majid and Saeed and that ilk, right? Oh, in fact, like, he's my sister's friend as well. They went to the same high school. He went to the same class as her, right? And yeah, I really just felt like I had a slice of luck that he answered, right? But he asked me not to say what his name is, right? But I said that I wanted to talk about it in my YouTube episode, right? And I asked his permission, you know, to use his name and to talk about this encounter. And he was like, fuck no, bro, no. The fuck you doing, man? Talking about my name? No, fuck no. It's like, okay, but can I at least tell the story and then just say that, you know, it was one of Mansour's friends that answered the phone? It's like, yeah, fucking oath. That's fine, whatever kind of thing, right? But he answered, and knowing what he knew, knowing what I did, he spoke to me compassionately. He listened to me when I spoke. He had empathy for me. And yeah, he heard me, which was really all that I needed, right? So I said, look, man, I just really want to put last year behind me. I just really want to be able to like speak to Mansour, or just sort of let him know that there's no sort of hard feelings. It just, you know, it is what it is. You know what I mean? I had a mental breakdown. You know, Mansour has mental breakdowns, and he gets his parents to get him a business class trip to Sydney. I have a mental breakdown, and I start sort of, you know, like revealing, you know, all the things that I've held on to all my life, right? And a lot of weird stuff sort of came up, right? Like Mansour's wedding and all that sort of crap. But I really need to put the matter to bed, and the best way for me to put the matter to bed is if I can speak to Mansour. But I don't think I'll ever have that. So the best that I have is, you know, speaking to his friend, you know, who was just a slice away. And I'm so grateful that he was just a slice away, right? Because it meant that I could reach out to him, and he answered the phone. And yeah, man, he just said that I said that I'm in Bondi, I'm in a really good mood, and I just really wanted to like reach out to someone just to, you know, maybe put the matter to bed, just tell them, you know, my perspective or something like that. And I just want to apologize and sort of move forward, right? And I don't have any animus towards Youssef or Mansour or Halim, but I just have animus towards Saeed and Majid and Sandy and Ami Maroon. And then I began talking about them in more detail. I was like, that fucking murderer, and I'll fucking kill him. And he pulled me up straight away. He said, bro, what the fuck are you doing, man? Why are you talking like that so early in the morning? Like, what's wrong with you? I don't want to hear that. And it was so beautiful, right? Because that, just say that, burst my bubble. That's all that you had to do, right? Oh, bro, straight out, man, like, thank you, man. I know, bro, but you have to understand, like, I still have this anger, man. I don't know what to do with it. It just comes up, man. It's like, yeah, bro, but just like it's not helping anything, man. You're not helping yourself. Just, it's like, you're right, blah, blah, blah. It's all good. And I'm really sorry for saying that. I'm really sorry for lashing out, because that anger that I was projected to him negatively impacts him. Like, people don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear how, you know, I want to like, I want to curse people in church. You know what I mean? Because that's basically what it is. It's like a double curse, right? It's not enough to say you want to like hurt someone, or like I'm so angry at them that I want to do X, Y, Z in front of Saint Charbel, right? You know, in the name of the Father, right? And part of the reason why I'm so quick to curse people in the name of God is because people have been cursing cursing in the name of God all my life, right? Ami Sharbel, his whole being is a slap in the face of Jesus Christ, let's just say, right? His whole existence, right? The fact that he thinks it's okay for him to be a gold sponsor of home upholstery when he's now apparently getting into physical altercations at church in December, right? When I've been warning St. Charbel's Parish Punch Bowl since February about his violence and violent tendencies, for goodness sakes, right? And I had to send an email to bloody Maronites on Mission, man, to let them know that it's unacceptable to have him as a gold sponsor, and if they really want him as a gold sponsor, then they're duty bound to take his action seriously. And I have evidence for everything, you know, for him assaulting, his brother, breaking his finger, telling people that there is no AVO out on him for the protection of his brother, and sharing like a screenshot of a conversation that I had with the police officer, text message exchange, where I confirmed with the police officer that the AVO is current, right, as of early 2024. But yeah, or maybe it was 2023, I'm not too sure. But anyway, and then I said about the credible rumor that he assaulted his wife in Lebanon, right? They have to take these things seriously, for goodness sakes, right? I don't know if they will, but to me, that's a curse, right? In the name of God, right? I don't know how you can flip it any other way, because you can't look at it in reverse and be like, well, because that's indulgence, man. You can't be like, well, he paid $10,000 to Maronites on Mission, so he must be good. It's like, no. He paid $10,000 to Maronites on Mission, so he can have so that could distract from the kind of person, right? That could sort of quell the credible rumors, right? I feel like every single time he assaulted someone, he paid $10,000 to Maronites on Mission, so he could be like, what? No, man, no, look, I'm Maronites on Mission. No, man, no. But then when you factor in the fact that the money that he used to pay for Maronites on Mission was likely stolen from his family, it's like, oh, he's a career criminal, literally using stolen money to distract from the fact that he's a violent, horrible abuser, right? That's a curse on God, in the name of God, in my opinion, right? And then you have my Uncle Maroon that goes to him for spiritual guidance, for goodness sakes, man. And apparently my Uncle Charlie is back managing the assets of his father, which is, fine, I suppose. But I'm sorry for, like saying all those violent, uncomfortable kind of things to Mansour's friend, who's, any way you slice it, right? Mansour's friend that answered the call did a good deed. He helped me process my emotions. He kind of burst that bubble, and I'm grateful for that. And I respect him so much because of that. I admire him so much because of that, right? I feel like with that attitude, I feel like he might be selling himself short, hanging around with the kind of people that he hangs around with, for goodness sakes, right? Because before this phone call, I just thought of him as nothing more than just like a degenerate pothead and junkie, right? In all honesty. That's just the way that I slice it, right? But after hearing hearing him speak, listening to him as well, because he was telling me that the reason why he answered the phone was because I'm a person, right? And he really put it in straightforward words. Like, why wouldn't I talk to you? You're a human being, right? It's all love, man. Like, why not? And I said, like, that's really good and that's really, really mature. I really admire you for that. Like, I didn't realize that about you. And he was like, yeah, man, and I asked, how's he doing? How's everything? He's like, yeah, man, it's really, really good. Apparently he's getting off the drugs and he's not doing that sort of stuff anymore. And last time I saw him, he was losing, like he'd lost a lot of weight and he was doing quite well. And I hope he continued on that pattern, and I hope that he understands how toxic, firstly, the friends that he hang around with actually are, even though they may have made him feel like good in the moment when they were on drugs and smoking pot together. But in the long run, I think that they're bad, toxic influences on him, in my opinion. And I heard about like how other people spoke about him, which is why I had the idea that he was like this sort of degenerate pothead junkie. Especially like hearing Majid talk about him and making fun about, the village that he's from in Lebanon and all that kind of stuff. And I definitely felt like he was belittled by his mates. But in my opinion, like he's shown himself to be far better than them. Certainly not like a spoiled junkie like Mansour. But that's just my opinion, innit? Right? But I suppose I just wanted to end the episode by saying thank you to that friend of Mansour, you know, that real slice of life, that slice of friendship, really nourished me, you know. It was a good, proper way that people ought to interact with each other, compassionately, with understanding, you know. Because I've been through a lot in my life, right? And I hate being talked down to by people that have experienced less than me and know less than me, especially about my experience with mental health and drug addiction, all that sort of stuff. Domestic violence, certainly. You know, I feel like a lot of people were sort of talking down to me the way that Trump was talking down to ZELINKSY recently, you know, which is why it was important, which is why I felt like it was fitting for me to put that video as part of the intro, a clip of that interaction in the intro, and I might finish this episode with more elaboration on the talks between Trump and Zelensky, and how Trump, in my opinion, was an absolute buffoon, a condescending swine, a little spoiled child, right, that thought it was okay to talk down to basically like a war hero that he's been struggling in the dirt, in the muck with his people, right?
You're in no position to dictate.
Or Trump just sort of golfs and eats McDonald's at Mar-a-Lago. It is just, oh God, the state of the world. The fact that so many people in the Lebanese Maronite community respect Trump and disrespect Zelensky, I don't understand, man. They just sort of see power, I suppose, and they don't understand where the power comes from. Lies and deceit, manipulation. Man, so many people in my social circle in my community respect Putin, and they know nothing of like the USSR and the KGB and the evil, the absolute evil in Putin. But man, it's a curse in the name of God, right? The religious figures in my community, right? You know, with the same breath, you know, talk about, you know, Maronite and Saint Charbel and God, and, you know, we should support Putin and the war and the war. God. Anyway, it's all good. I want to end by thanking that friend of Mansour's for speaking to me. That was lovely. I want to thank my father from the bottom of my heart for sending through the money to cover the mortgage for 2 months. That will take so much pressure off me. I am so grateful for that. That is so lovely, you know. I feel so spoiled. That'll go a long way, you know. And that money that he sent wasn't to me, it was to my wife, who then transferred it into the mortgage, because I don't want to touch money at the moment, because, you know, I'm quite irresponsible with money at the moment. But I think I'll get there, I'll improve. All right. I think that's about it, yeah? I love you. Bye.